All right, gentlemen, let's talk about John Adams. All right. So 1796, we don't have GW running for re-election. So he steps down, on his own, establishes that two-term precedent. Okay. So you've got Adams, a Federalist, and Thomas Jefferson, an anti-Federalist running. Well, here's the thing. We don't run as a ticket at this point. We just run as individuals. So Adams gets the most electoral votes. He becomes president. And then Thomas Jefferson, who got the second most votes, becomes vice president. That's stupid. That's actually really stupid. So we're going to have to change that. The 12th Amendment is added to say, hey, let's run as a president, vice president. All right. So the problem caused by election of 1796, you get a president from the Federalist and a vice president from the anti-Federalist. Okay. Not going to get along very well. All right. The Federalists, this might, all right. So we're dealing with immigrants then, we're dealing with immigrants now. It's constantly an issue in the United States. All right. Well, the Federalist Party wanted to limit the power of immigrants because when those immigrants came in, they tended to be anti-Federalists. All right. So the Alien Act was to limit the number of immigrants that could come into the United States. The Alien Act was trying to limit the number of immigrants coming into the United States, and the sole reason was to keep the Federalist Party in power. The Sedition Act made it illegal to say things that were against the government. All right. So sedition is speech advocating the overthrow of the government. Well, what the Sedition Act did was if you were making fun of the Federalists, that was seen as seditious. Once again, the whole point was to quiet or limit the power of the anti-Federalists. Okay, so both of these were not that great. All right. Now, some states were like, all right, these laws, okay, are unconstitutional. All right. So the southern states, like Virginia, mainly anti-federalist, they say, you know what, states have the right to nullify or not follow a law that they think is unconstitutional. Okay. Nowhere is that in the Constitution. That idea is not a thing. All right. But the theory of nullification, all right, and Virginia is going to come up with this and they're going to say, hey, look, we as a state, we don't like that federal law, so we're not going to follow it. Okay. Incredibly unconstitutional on its own. All right. But that is nullification. All right. So you've got limiting immigration, limiting speech against the government. You got the states fighting back by saying, fine, we're just not going to follow your laws that we don't want to. So not a great start to our governmental experiment. Okay. Now you also have Prosser's Rebellion. All right. Jacob Prosser up here. So this is a slave revolt. I think it's in Richmond. Yeah, it's in Richmond. All right. Well, it fails, but this scares the hell out of the slave owners. Okay. So slave owners, convince local state governments to pass stricter laws limiting, like even harsher laws against slaves for rebellion. Okay, because they do not want their, workforce to revolt. Okay, so penalty. So we're talking about like penalty of death, extreme torture, that sort of stuff. So the result of Prosser's Rebellion, which was a slave rebellion in Richmond, is even harsher legislation, okay, against slaves, giving more rights to slave owners. All right, so that's all domestic policy matters. Now, foreign policy, okay, so Britain and France are kind of like going back and forth, are at war with each other. Okay, Adams, just like Washington, wanted to stay neutral during this whole thing. Doesn't want to get involved. All right. So you've got Federalists, or you've got anti-Federalists who are like saying, hey, listen, you should, want to like take France's side on this one because they helped us out. But Adams is like, well, we're doing trade with both of these guys. So the fact that he's not choosing a side makes him seem weak at home. All right, that he's weak, that he doesn't help out his allies. Okay, so Adams tries to stay neutral. Okay, it really doesn't work very well for him. All right, and he is seen as weak. All right, now the XYZ affair is you've got diplomats. U.S. diplomats are sent to France. All right. In order to so you have these French diplomats that say, fine, if you want to see the French government, you've got to pay me a bribe. All right. And so that just angers the U.S. government. All right. France is upset that they're not getting a bribe from the United States. The United States is pissed that France is asking for a bribe. And so the XYZ affair is reported in both newspapers, with a heavy bias towards whatever country was posting the stuff. So it's tensions between, or relationships between the United States and France are not good with the XYZ affair. So XYZ affair, U.S. diplomats trying to speak to France. The French diplomat, like a low level, asked for a bribe in order to see the government. U.S. isn't going to pay that, and everyone gets pissed. This leads to what's known as a quasi-war or a so-so war. All right, where the United States and France have a undeclared war, like a naval war, where the United States is attacking, the U.S. Navy is attacking, or the United States is attacking French ships, and the French ships are attacking U.S. merchants. Okay, this leads to the creation of the U.S. Navy. Adams is like, all right, we need to have a formal, we've got a military, we need a navy. So a quasi-war, undeclared war between France and the United States. And what happens is we actually start, Adams commissions the forming of the U.S. Navy. All right, gentlemen, that's all I got. Enjoy.